Good morning, my little artists. So last year we made this guy. Remember we had such a good time with this? Well, it's time to upgrade because we're a little bit older, we work a little bit harder, we're a little bit smarter. So this year we're going into felt puppets. Now, last year I did animals, but I don't like to do the same thing over and over and over again. So we're gonna turn them into aliens. So I'm going to show you all the different steps in order to make the pocket so that you can still slide your hand in. It's pretty similar to the peacock, but it's a little harder to cut felt. So I'm going to walk you through some tips on how to do that and then how to make the little extra details. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is make our very own tracers for the shape of our alien body and so that we know that it fits on our very own hand. Last year I gave you tracers, this year you'll be making your own. So you want to make sure that your whole hand fits on the paper, and this is going to be the part that makes the pocket, but we're going to change the shape a little bit. So you're going to go around your hand in a bubble, but staying about 2 finger spaces away from your hand on both sides. So I went back and traced it in Sharpie just because I know it's a little hard to see on the camera. So you want to make sure that your hand fits inside and that you've got at least 1 or 2 finger spaces on each side. This is going to be the pocket for the body. Now you can change this shape or you can leave it this way. You just want to make sure that your hand fits inside. So if I was going to change the shape and wanted to do something like making my alien a little wavy on the side, I could just add to it like this, but then I know my hand still fits inside. So then you want to draw the pieces that you think you're going to use on your alien, but we're kind of going to deconstruct him, kind of spread him out, or her. So let's see, if you want some antennas, I would go to the bottom and let's see, maybe my antennas are curved with a big eyeball on it. Now I'm only going to draw 1. Even though I could use 2 or 3 or 4, I can use the same tracer over and over again. So that saves you from some cutting and some time. So maybe I want some polka dots, so I'm going to draw some circles. Now maybe I want, maybe I want some crazy arms. Now again, you can use that one tracer 2 times. Something you want to avoid is making the pieces too tiny, because felt is tricky to cut out in, so you don't really want to make them too tiny. It will be very frustrating. So I didn't make too many pieces just because I know that I can add some later. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut all of this out. Okay, so I've got my pieces glued down. So now I'm going to pick a color felt for the body. I'm going to fold it hamburger. So I've got 2 nice sides because we've got to make the pocket, so we know that we need 2. Now, my tracer just fits on there. You want to put it all the way to the bottom. It's less cutting that way. And then you want to take your Sharpie and very carefully hold on tight to the tracer and trace around it. It doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be dark. You just want a line to be able to cut on. So felt is super tricky to cut if you don't know how to cut it. So I like to hold on to the pieces together and do it all at once, but you can do it separately. You just want to make sure that if you're doing it separately, that when you unfold it, you make sure that you can fit 2 on there perfectly. I find that if you hold on to the felt together and hold it tight, that it cuts a whole lot easier than if you just kind of let it wobble. If you let the fabric get caught in between the scissor blades, then you have a much harder time. So this is the pocket for my alien body puppet. So we're going to take a second to talk about a new tool that we'll be using together. One that really you got to be careful with. We're going to be using hot glue guns to attach all of our pieces. White glue just doesn't dry fast enough and doesn't always stick, so I am trusting you with our hot glue guns. Now, these hot glue guns are low temperature. They're not going to burn your finger off. You're going to be okay. Here are some rules about the hot glue gun. 1, we never, ever, ever fool around with it. 2, that silver tip right there, that's where the hot glue comes out. It is very, very hot. Don't touch it. Very simple. Now, if you've never used a hot glue gun before, this is the little piece that you pull on slowly to make the glue come out the tip. This is where you load the next hot glue stick. Don't pull it out. This is the glue that melts inside of it, so it just gets pushed through every time that you hit this little button right here. So when you're out of glue, this will have disappeared. We never, ever, ever pointed at anybody. We never fool around with it. We are very, very, very careful with it. You guys will be working in groups at your table, and each table will have 2 to 3 hot glue guns, so there's no need for everybody to be bunched around one hot glue gun. Also, if you're holding it, be very careful about which way you turn, because somebody might be right next to you and you don't want to accidentally tap them with a silver tip. That would hurt. So while this hot glue gun is an extremely wonderful and useful tool, we do have to be very, very careful with it. So let's get started. Okay, so we've got our 2 pieces. Now, we've got to put a line of glue around the very edge. Now, you don't want to put it all the way to the outside or it's going to come squeezing out the side, just like regular glue. And this one will burn you, so be very, very careful. We also are not gluing the bottom because that's where we stick our hand in for the puppet. So your pieces should be pretty much exactly the same. So you don't want to just like open it up and pour some glue on it and stick it back together. It's not going to really work that way. The glue does dry really, really quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the pieces on top of each other and we're going to do one little section at a time. Put a little glue, press it down. Don't stick your finger out here because if it comes squeezing out the side, you're going to burn yourself. A little bit at a time. And then turn the puppet. So you are going to get these annoying strings and little threads of hot glue. You can just pull them away. They're not hot or anything. So we're still working our way around. If you try to do too long of a piece, it dries before you get it stuck together. If it does that, just put a little bit more glue in the spot and move on. Now, see how my glue has disappeared into the abyss of this hole? That's when you ask me for another glue stick. To add another glue stick, you simply just drop it in the back, and it's going to be a little wobbly until this little piece in here catches it. So just keep tilting it forward and you should be fine. So now, once it's dry, you should have a perfectly wonderful and lovely pocket for your alien shape. So I have a ginormous bag of scraps that you'll be able to use to make the rest of your pieces. So I'm going to use this green square that I found to make my little antennas. And I'm going to do it the same way that I made the pocket. Since I know that I need 2, I'm going to fold it over, put it all the way to the bottom, trace it with a Sharpie, and cut it out. Now I've got my little antenna eyes here. So I just went ahead and grabbed some scraps out of my bag of scraps and cut out some of the pieces that I would need to complete my eyes. So I'm stacking the pieces on top of each other. Now these are teeny tiny itty bitty little pieces and we still need to hot glue them together. So I like to start with one. I put the glue on the back of the piece. Now, gentle teeny squeeze. You need very, very little hot glue. The smaller the piece, the more likely you will need my help, and that's totally okay. Just raise your hand, get my attention. I'll be right over to help you. So I like to construct the pieces first and then stick them to my alien. Now, something we learned when we did that peacock is if your pieces hang up too far, they're gonna flop. See, floppy, it's fabric. So I'm gonna stick them down a little bit, and if I really need to, later I can reinforce them with some paper clips, and I'll show you how to do that. Now go ahead and feel free to add the rest of your pieces to decorate your alien. You can use as many scraps as you want. You can decorate it however you want. Just remember, anything that hangs off the side is going to be a little floppy. And anything that's really small, you might need my help hot gluing if you're unsure of how to slowly get some hot glue out of it.